minhag. And minhag, as I keep pointing out, is beyond what anybody thinks about it. Minhag, almost all of what we do is minhag. And what I mean by that, and what I keep on repeating, is that we paskin like the Ramah, because that's the minhag Ashkenaz. Those that paskin like the Beis Yosef, which was always the halacha here in Eretz Yisrael and in the Middle East, Bechal, Morocco, Iran, Iraq, they paskin like the Beis Yosef. That's their minhag. So in a sense, even though it's a halacha, it's totally in a minhag. So we're doing kiminhag, which makes it in a way more chamur, because it's not like you can find two opinions, always be somewhat, go this way, go that way. It's our minhag. You don't change your minhag. I mean, that's the yesod that I keep on repeating from the Chavos Yair and the Rivash, is that minhag is all about makom. Minhag is not about personal minhagim or your father's minhagim. There may be such a thing, but what's very clear is when the Gemara says, Al titosh teres imecha, which learns out minhagim, Shema b'ni musar avicha al titosh teres imecha. The Gemara says, talks about minhagim. It's talking about minhagei amakom. It's not talking about, so, and if you, before in the Gemara, if you leave that makom for good, you're not bound by that minhag. The exception to this, and this is the end of my review, is there are certain minhagim, it seems, all of Klal Yisrael took on. So if all of Klal Yisrael took on these minhagim, then of course all of Klal Yisrael's, it's makom. It doesn't make a difference where you are. And if all of Klal Yisrael took on the minhag, so even if you go to a place which for some reason they don't do that minhag, you still have to do it. Example would be cherem d'Rabbeinu Gershon. So Klal Yisrael, that was a cherem, loshen cherem b'chlal, is a minhag shein higu by Klal Yisrael. It's a minhag for the whole Klal Yisrael. It was like a Kabbalah of Klal Yisrael to give a minhag. Another example would be the tzomos that we do. Shivasar B'Tammuz, the different tzomos that we do that are not Yom Kippur, not clear in the Torah. So those are minhagim, and they have different halachas because they all have to do, as the Mishabur explains, they all, like the halachas of those minhagim, why don't they start at night? Like Tisha B'Av, why don't start at night? So it's not time to start at night. The answer is that because we're not doing the original tainus that they did. And there's 100 more tanesim that you can keep if you want to keep it. But these are the ones that we took upon ourselves, and we took upon ourselves with certain gedarim, which are our minhagim, that a chola doesn't fast and isha menekes doesn't fast. It's not so much mehilchas tainus, of course it's hilchas tainus, as it is mehilchas minhag. Am I clear in this? Because this is what we need to know to go further.
If you say that the minhagim follow the makom, why here in Eretz Yisrael do we not follow exclusively the Sephardim minhagim?
That's like a really good question. We're in here Shabbos Shuvah. Because, and this is really where I want to get to in these weeks, because unfortunately, there is no longer, in very few places, is there such a thing as a minhag hamakom anymore. Like once a place becomes, Biur Halacha says this, once a place becomes desolate, let's say, you go right now to Krakow. So there's no serious Jewish community there. Maybe there's some Chabadniks there, but it's not the community. It's not a continuation of the community that was. So it's hefker now. It's free. It has no minhagei hamakom any longer. And poskim say that, believe it or not, Eretz Yisrael has such a thing between the Beis Yosef and now. There were times where there was, especially here at Beit Shemesh, there were times where it wasn't so clear. So therefore, this in itself is a machlokes achrayim, whether we have any obligation to the previous minhagei hamakom or not. But what happens is, because of the Golus, because of in our times the Holocaust, and chaos set in. Because now, not just here, but New York, like everybody, there is no minhag hamakom. Or Moshe said, no minhag hamakom. In New York, tried to make one. No, we're not going to make a minhag hamakom. He says, ironically, that's going to lead to machlokes, right? That's dufa going to lead to machlokes, even though the whole idea is to get rid of machlokes. So said Moshe, just leave it. Everybody go with the minhag that they came from. Okay, that's what the Gadol Adar Paskin, that's what he Paskin. I'm just saying that's the evolution of minhagei New York, where Ramesh said, okay, so you'll daven Nusach Ashkenaz, you'll daven Sfard, you'll daven Hasidish, you'll be this, you'll be that. And that way there's a lot of different, but it's chaos.
Is the authority of the Gemara also in Klal Yisrael?
Yeah, so it's a funny way of saying it, the authority of the Gemara, but Takonas Chachamim. Takonas Chachamim is this, let's do it the other way around. A Minhag Yisrael, I'll show you in the Rishonim, Rashba, Ran, a Minhag Yisrael has the same din as Takonas Chachamim in the Gemara. How about that? Meaning Cherem Rabbeinu Gershon was a Rishon earlier than Rishonim, but he wasn't time anymore. So Cherem Rabbeinu Gershon has a tokef. That's what the Rishonim say, has a tokef of something which is Takonas Chachamim. So there's such a, and that's actually what I'm going to show you right now, that Minhagim can have a huge tokef. Now there's so many things, so many directions we could go, and I'm like a Bucky on going on tangents. So be careful with me, but keep. It feels like that I'm going to talk about the din of women covering their hair. Why are you laughing? No, because I'm not. I mean, that we could talk about that. There's a lot to talk about there in Agavurcha. We will talk about a lot of it, but it's Agavurcha in the sense that it's not really the point that I want to bring. And there's famous Mishnah in Ksuvas, Ayin Beis Amud Aleph. If you have a Ksuvas, take a look. Maybe Daf Yomi, you have a Ksuvas. Ayin Beis Amud Aleph. Elu yotzei sheloi b'ksuva. There are certain women that if their husband divorces them, they don't get their ksuva, which I would say was a much bigger deal in the olden days than it is now. Unless they do like some Chashav Yidden do, they make a Tosfos ksuva. Tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars have been at Chasanas. Just tell you a personal story. On Friday, somebody called me. Didn't know who he was. A strange call. He was telling me that having problems with his wife, and it comes out he thought she was having an affair, and she stopped covering her hair when she goes out of the house, and she meets men. Like who knows if any of this is even true? But he's telling me this ganze Maisa. So he said, my wife. He says, do you believe me? My wife is crazy. So I said, well, either she's crazy or you're crazy. I have no way to know who's crazy over here. Anyway, so I gave out a bitui that, okay, Yotzeis Blo Ksuva. So he said, Yotzeis Blo Ksuva. So he said, who cares about the Ksuva? I'm not talking about the Ksuva. I'm talking about, you got angry. Anyways, but okay, but here the Mishnah has a list of Yotzeis Blo Ksuva, which I feel is more important than the Ksuva itself. And I'll show you why. Just push it up shot. Elu Yotzei Shaloi B'Ksuva, says the Mishnah. These are women that if you divorce them, you don't owe them nothing. Ha'oiveres Aldas Moshe v'Yehudis. A woman who's Overes Aldas Moshe v'Yehudis. Ezui Das Moshe. The Mishnah doesn't keep us guessing here. What's an example of Das Moshe? Let's say Machilosai She'enoi Ma'user. She gives you food which she didn't meiser. Misham Shosei Nida. She's not careful with the mikvah, which the Gemara later explains includes all of the dinim of ksamim and bedikas and shavanikim. It's not like she just doesn't go to the mikvah. All the takonas chachamim, interestingly, go into this. Like kotzul chala, noideres ve'ena mekayemes. She makes nadarim and she doesn't keep them. Those are all you're allowed to divorce your wife with not necessarily mechuyev to divorce your wife, but you're allowed to divorce your wife, and you don't have to worry about the ksuva. The ksuva is the thing which, to some extent, keeps you married. There are ramifications, so no ramifications. Ezu idas Yehudis, yoitza v'roisha parua. She goes out and she doesn't cover her hair. B'daber sim kol adam, b'shuk. She goes into the shuk and she just schmoozes with everybody. I'm not giving you now a checklist. I'm just telling you. Just reading a Mishnah. Don't think about the Mishnah. Abishol Omer Af HaMekaleles Yilodav B'Fanav. If she curses my children in front of me. Reb Tarfon Omer Af HaKolanis. A kolanis is also Yotze B'Lo Ksuva. What's a kolanis? A screamer. Screaming all the time. Eze kolanis, she medaberes teich beisa, shchina ushchineha, shoymen koila. If she screams enough that the neighbors hear, so what does it mean? Like, you're not being a wife to me in the sense, why does that make her be Yotze B'Lo Ksuva? So she screams, she's a screamer, deal with it. Why does that make her go without Ksuva? In other words, apparently what the Mishnah is saying is this is a bizayon. It's a bizayon, it's embarrassing. You're creating a not mechubad situation. Seems to be that's the pshat in the Mishnah. A not mechubad situation. Therefore, Yotze B'Lo Ksuva. What's all of that might change. Might change these days. Maybe now we have windows, thermal window. But like things could change. But that's what the Mishnah says. So what's Das Moshe? What's Das Yehudis? Yehudis means Jewish. Jewish, nothing to do with Yehudit.
Could be kolanis also. Maybe she's speaking loud, or so all privacy comes out. Whatever she's speaking, so everyone knows all her business, all their business.
Okay. The Gemara talks about this. The Gemara is a shiloh. What is she saying? Doesn't make any difference what she's saying. What I just want to dwell on for a couple of minutes is, what do these terms even mean? Das Moshe, Das Yehudis. Das is Daled Taf, not Daled Ayin Taf. Das. What does the word Das mean?
Religion.
Religion or
Beliefs.
you sure? Custom. No. Well, I think what the word means is like a culture. In other words, what does Das Moshe mean? So there's examples here. Pashat Pshat and Das Moshe it means things that come from the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu told us we're not allowed to do it. So say, Doraisa. Oh, we have Rab Mekudeshli Kedas Moshe, Daled Tov, V'Yisrael. So what does that even mean? I'm asking you, what does it mean? Arei Ad Mekudeshli, we all said it. Kedas Moshe v'Yisrael. You are Mekudesh to me, Kedas Moshe v'Yisrael. Like you're supposed to have two things in mind. Das Moshe, Das Yisrael. Why not? Why don't we say Arei Mekudesh li Kedas Yehudis? So what is Das Moshe? It can't mean Doraisa. L'chora, Pashat Pshat is it can't mean Doraisa, even though some say it does mean Doraisa. First of all, it would say Doraisa, but second of all, there's examples that are brought in Das Moshe, which are not Doraisa. Ksomim is not Doraisa. If she's not careful to do bedikas, it's not Doraisa. B'nos Yisrael Ichmir al Atzman. This is a Gemara. This is a din of Reb Zera, which we'll get to. But the din of Reb Zera. Reb Zera told us that B'nos Yisrael Hichmir, that really, like, to be a nida, you have to have a flow, and a nida has to be the right time of month. But B'nos Yisrael, Hichmir al Atzman, the B'nos Yisrael were machmir on themselves, that afilu, raya tipas dam kechardol, yoshevas alav zayin nikim. That even if she sees a tipas dam kechardol, which is what I'm busy with, looking at the tipas dam kechardol, if it's dam, if it's the size of a gris, she sits 7 nikim. So, B'nos Yisrael Ichmir al Atzman, so sein gesund. Like who told them to be Bachmir, and why are we doing it just because they were Bachmir? So, like, it needs a little bit of a svara here, which I'm going to give you. Like, why is that so important? Reb Zera told us this, B'nos Yisrael Ichmir al Atzman. Why is it even important? But it's not Deraisa. Can't call it Deraisa. And yet, the Gemara and the Rambam says clearly that all goes into Das Moshe. So Das Moshe must mean something which is not Deraisa only, including Derabanan, let's say. If that's the case, what's Das Yehudis? If Das Yehudis, like, it would be easy to say this is Deraisa, this is Derabanan.
Okay, can you say that Das Moshe is statutory and Yehudis is like common law?
I don't know what you mean.
I mean, there's common law, and then there's statutory law. Statutory law is a higher madrega.
Should we accept it so
I just
laws
thought,
of some sort?
Well, she's Machal Shabbos, isn't she? Yotze B'lo Ksuva. Why isn't that on the list here? What was that? Machal Shabbos for Asia.
I'm saying that's
And
a
then
derisa. And that's just,
That's Pasha.
yeah.
That's Pasha. But so Das Moshe means something different. That's all I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Otherwise, there's 613. There's a full list of derisas, but there's something.
Is Das
She-
Moshe more, less custom, Das Yehudis is more minhagam related to minhagam makom than
Okay.
Das Moshe?
Okay. So Das Moshe Das Yehudis. I'm going to explain to you now. I mean, there's a lot of Mefarshim here. It's very confusing, but I'm going to explain to you, make it clear one way, which I learned from the Trumas Hadeshin. But the Gemara says, let me just read you a little bit further in the Gemara, Ayin Beis Amud Aleph at the bottom of the page. The Gemara says, Ezui Das, remember what's Das Moshe, what's Das Yehudis? Did I say what Das Yehudis was? I'm sorry. Right. So the Gemara says, Ezu Das Yehudis Yoitzes Rosh Parua. An example of Das Yehudis is she goes outside without covering her hair. Rosh Parua. Yotze B'lo Ksuva. Like the Gemara, Rosh Parua Deraisahi. It's the Gemara's question. Rosh Parua is a Deraisa. So what's the Gemara's kasha? Why are you telling me it's Das Yehudis? Maybe. Or it got nothing to do with Das. Nothing to do with Das Moshe, Das Yehudis. It's just everything is a Deraisa, like Chilul Shabbos. Like the Gemara's question is always taken. Let me just back up a little bit to say, Das Aisha Parua Deraisi must be it's Das Moshe, not Das Yehudis. No, I'm saying maybe the pshat is, and this is the Trumas Hadeshin, it's not Das at all. It's not a cultural thing. Of course, if it is a deraisa, like Machal Shabbos, she's eating pizza out in treifa restaurant. So pashut that she's not a wife for me. Yotze B'lo Ksuva. She's not going to raise my children correctly. Obviously, she's a Yotze B'lo Ksuva. But the nuance of the Mishnah is that even if she's not doing something which is a klora deraisa, it's not a clear deraisa, but it's Das Moshe, Das Yehudis, undefined. Even then, it's Yotze B'lo Ksuva. So Melo, the Gemara asks, Rosh Parua Deraisi. What's the deraisa? The chsiv. Is it clear it's deraisa, you mean? Okay, the chsiv, sota. The chsiv, upara es rosha isha. V'tana devei Rabbi Yishmael, azhara lebnois Yisrael, very important words, shalayetze b'pirua rosh. First of all, let's just get clear once and for all. Why do our wives cover their hair because of a sota? Ma kesher. But what the Gemara is learning from sota is that here's this woman who's a sota. Sota means a suffix zona. That's what a sota means, not a vadai zona. It's a suffix zona. And she comes to the Beis Hamikdash, V'amido lifnei Hashem, and the Kohen takes her and puts her in front of the Mizbeach. Amido lifnei Hashem, Rashi says the Mizbeach. Upara es Roisha. And it's hard to imagine this happened. I don't even know if it did. But Upara es Roisha, he grabs her hair, her sheitel, and he throws it on the floor. You are a wild woman. Paras Roisha, like. So the Gemara is listening to this pasuk and is saying, she must have had her hair covered. Now this is a suffix sota. She must have had her hair covered. Mikan. From here we learn, says the Gemara, from here we learn that women used to cover their hair.
This is Ashara.
Rashi and Chumash says, that very good. That Rashi is a little like another knach over here. Mashma that it's a ganai to have her head uncovered. Why is it mashma that it's a ganai? Rashi taking this from a different angle. Why is it a ganai? Because otherwise, what's the kohen doing this for? The whole idea is to be magana her. So so you'll take some, just some American lady and tell her uncover her hair. There's no ganai. There's not anyways uncovering her hair. So from Rashi you see even deeper that it was the custom of Klal Yisrael to cover their hair. Now from this you could see the answer. You see a question and answer because how did that make something into a derisa? Like it's such a fun. It's not like we learn from Saita that women have to cover their hair. Like why? Because the Saita cover. No. How do we learn it's derisa? Because we see. What do we see from Saita? We see that women in those days covered their hair. That's all. So just one second. I just want to make sure I get explain clear. In other words, all we see from here, it's not a derisa like lois sachmaid. Like right, it's not a lav. It doesn't tell you here, but derisa means we learn from we can see a nuance in the Torah. We have a window, a lens into the times of the Torah to tell us that it was a ganai for a woman to have her hair uncovered, and so therefore, the answer is it's not really. Therefore, it's das Moshe. Maybe, meaning is all we see from there is that the minhag Yisrael, in the time of the Chumash, was to women covered their hair. Agav, just to say, like until the early 20th century, all women covered their hair. There was nothing unusual about until, let's say, in the 1800s. We've all seen the movies. They're all wearing hats and covering their hair. I don't think anybody sees like Queen Elizabeth going outside without a hat on. It was a normal mechubad thing for women to cover their hair and their body, but that was a davar mechubad. It was only with the liberation and what's the beginnings of like what's the difference between men and women. Oh, men don't have to cover it, women do have to. Like that's when it all began. But what we're seeing today, which became normal of women not covering their hair, it's a normal thing of women not covering their hair. It doesn't mean they're immoral or something, but that's all a chelik of the movement as you're moving here. But like it's not a kasha like why do we cover our hair? You need to have kabbalah. Pashut, like it's pashut that like as Rashi says, taking off someone's hair in public is like us taking off our going to a wedding and removing your shirt. A man, it's a guy. It's not mechubad. It's not dignified. So therefore, I just want to say this: it falls into the category. Hear me out. It falls into the category of das daled tuf, not mitzvah. It's das Moshe, das Yehudis, one of the two. But it's not about l'chayra. It's not about a chiyuv. It's like this new category of das Moshe, das Yehudis. I repeat where I'm coming from. Just give me your full attention. Why does it say das Moshe, das Yehudis? Why does it say deraisa d'Rabbanan or deraisa and minhagim? Because this is not the case. It's not about deraisa and d'Rabbanan. Or the das Moshe could be what we call d'Rabbanans, and das Yehudis can even be maybe deraisa theoretically. What we're talking about is what was the normative dress standard of Bnei Yisrael from the time of the Chumash, which is the case by Saita, all the way liyamenu. That's what the word means, and nothing else today but define those words. Das Moshe, das Yisrael, and means what are the minhagei Yisrael. So here's where the Trumas Hadeshin comes in. So as it comes to Trumas Hadeshin, he says a gewaldige thing. I thought it was, to me, it was a big kiddush. He says that it's not that das Moshe is like one thing and das Yehudis is minhagei Yisrael. Das Moshe is also minhagei Yisrael. It means to say that das minhagei Yisrael that we know were done in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's how the women went. We have proofs from Sota and maybe other proofs also, Shir Hashirim. There's proofs of how the women went in the time of Moshe. That's what das Moshe means. It doesn't mean deraisa. Minhag, which has more tokef because we see it really was ingrained in the Jewish people. Then you have das Yehudis, which the Trumas Hadeshin says is the minhagim of Klal Yisrael throughout all the generations. And then listen to this, and this can change. This can change because this, as we know, so much of tznius is totally in minhag hamakom. So this gets us into very dangerous ground here, but I will get there. Das Moshe has more tokef, the Trumas Hadeshin says, has more authority because, and that can't change. In other words, if it was the minhag, if we could prove something was the minhag, let's talk about tznius. There's other things also.
That can't change.
That can't change. So that's what das Moshe means. But they're both minhagim. That's what Trumas Hadashins. They're both minhagim. Now, minhagim is no small thing. Lav milsa zutrasihi. Adrabah, like a halacha, you can go to a posek and he can give you like a whole pilpul and say, okay, maybe that's not the halacha for you, or suffix this and suffix that. Minhag is unnegotiable. This is the way Jews
How
go.
is that not adding on to the Torah? If a minhag becomes something binding, how is that not?
It was. I think the answer to that question is it was the way they understood the Torah wants us to be. Like not everything has to be spelled out. Yeah.
Gemara uses the word azhara, and is that a makkah for those who say it's the Raisa? Or could it mean that even though l'chayra something that has to do with minhag of Klal Yisrael, but it's azhara gives it the force of a deraisa in some
Nope.
sense.
Very good.
And could it be a das yochid that's only one person mentioning it? I remember who Gemara
So first of all, I only read half the sentence.
okay.
The Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel means in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel they discuss this a lot. You find this in a few places in the Gemara. What the Minhag Yisrael is. Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel Azhara Libnois Yisrael Shalo Yetze Biparua Roish Daraisa. Says the Gemara, Kol Shapir Dam. This is the Gemara's answer. Das Yehudis Afilu Kol Nami Yasser. So here the Gemara makes a distinction here between not necessarily between Das, between Deraisa and Das Yehudis. Right. Yes, you're paying attention. The chiluk here is between Deraisa and Das Yehudis. So what was going on, if I understand the Metzias correctly, what was going on is that women had long hair, the derech of women to have long hair, but they tied it up like this. Let's say that was and the Gemara speaks about a chut. You know, I'm envisioning like a knitting needle in there. There's a chut that kept it together, so their hair wasn't flying all over the place. This was the deraisa, says the Gemara, Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. This was the deraisa of not covering your hair because her hair's not covered. But it doesn't say covering. It says that it wasn't parua. Not what does parua mean?
Wow.
Yeah. So parua means wild in all kinds of applications. Yeah. Like so, but that's what it means. Para, parach, like something, anything that Yiskishbreit starts with a peiration in Lashon HaKodesh. A good klal. So anything that starts with a peiresh means it's getting out of its borders. A pri is something which grows out of the tree. Paratz, parach, parash, perach,
referred to as Peros sometimes.
para adam.
The children are referred to as your Peros sometimes.
Peros or para adam. Or para adam. That's what it means. So Rosha parua. So listen what the Gemara is saying here. It's such a gewaldige thing that the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying like this: that if you want to do, if we're talking about the deraisa of covering your hair, she can't have her hair parua. If you're talking about the das Moshe and the das Yehudis, that's to cover your hair. Different. It's a whole different sugya, paradigm shift in the sugya. One is talking about not having wild wilder hair, and the other one is which is difficult because like what's the shear? But I'll show you the Gemara in Brachos Chaf Daled Amud Aleph, which is I'm sure Yadu Alachem. The Gemara says over here, we're talking about Hilchos Kriyas Shema. Amar Reb Yitzchak. Tefach be'isha erva. Now, that's a new concept for us today. Erva. So it's not talking tefach be'isha erva, meaning everything has a shear. So you have to eat a certain amount to be chayiv on Yom Kippur. You have to eat a certain amount to be Yotze Kiddush, drink a certain amount, and eat a certain amount. So erva has a shear. Erva has a shear. So what's the shear? Tefach. The tefach is, let's call it 8 centimeters. So 8 centimeters is a tefach. So what does it mean that tefach be'isha erva? That if a tefach of erva is showing, so then you're looking at erva. Tefach be'isha erva. If less than a tefach is showing, so then you're not looking at a shear of erva. Tefach be'isha erva. Frek the Gemara, lamai. What's the halacha here? What are you telling me? That's how we should go? That's how we should go? Like, what lamai? What's the halacha here? So ilema, if you'll say the pshat is lista kule ba, if the pshat is you're allowed to stare at her if as long as it's less than a tefach. You think so? Frek the Gemara, v'hamar Rav Sheshes. If you're not allowed to stare at even etzbaktana. So what's the significance of tefach? Ella is talking about be'ishtoi, first of all. Ula kriyashma. It's talking about saying kriyashma. Amar Rav Chisda shoik be'isha erva shenemar gali shoik avre naharais. Kol be'isha erva. So you wonder, what's a tefach of kol? Amar Shesha sar b'isha erva shnemer sa'arech ke'eder ha'izim. So kol isha shoik, which includes the shoikei hayad and the shoikei ha'raglayim. So that's all called erva. Now we haven't been talking about erva. We've been talking about das Moshe and das Yehudis and the isser to go b'perua rosh. Here, Rabbi Yitzchak in the Gemara comes up with a new thing, not new. I mean, it's even older. That of course there's erva ervascha loy segala ervasa. In a certain way, that's the pashut pshat of gilui arayos. What does gilui arayos mean? Gilui arayos means that I'm showing an erva. So there are certain parts that are erva. So the shear of them is tefach. And here, by the way, the Shulchan Aruch immediately chimes in, so nobody should think that this doesn't apply to shoikei ha'isha. Shoikei ha'isha, you don't get an extra tefach there because that's the shok. Okay, that's a different discussion. But with hair, a lot of people, you have to be down l'kavschus, people that leave hair showing. So it's not called erva. Now, just because it's not called erva, does that automatically mean that it's not das Moshe or das Yehudis? Different things. Am I being clear here? There's different sugyas here. When we look at this woman, so there's different sugyas that are present. One sugya is das Moshe. Another sugya is das Yehudis. Another sugya is a gilui erva, which would be an isser deraisa to be gilui erva. That's an isser deraisa. That's machal Shabbos.
The hair is only from married, and the other gedarim are from 3 years old.
So, what would be good? Do you mind the big Shulchan Aruch, Chel Galef, Orach Chaim Chel Galef?
What was the actual Gemara's response to what the Yishma?
That same thing. The same thing. It's if it's tied up, kolsa. If it's not tied up at all, then you're over in a deraisa. If it is tied up but it's not covered, then you're over das Yehudis. Okay, don't worry about it. Here, it's here.
I was impressed that without even walking this way, we got it there.
Yeah. Is it the right? Okay, miracle over. I just have a couple of minutes. I'm just choosing carefully here. From everything that we just learned, which is basically two Gemaras, is a woman who's not covering her hair over an Avera or not over an Avera? Which Avera? It's Gilui Arayis. If somebody sees her, probably. I asked my father once if her mother, for a woman, covered her hair when she went outside. So he's thinking. So he said, I never remember she went outside. He remembers such a thing. But it's Yadua. It's Yadua that in parts of Europe, even from women stop covering their hair. And Lita, not so. I don't think the Rebbitzins so much, and maybe also,
Yeah.
but Rebbitzins also. Yeah.
I'll show you my bar mitzvah pictures. The Rebbitzins table. 2 had their hair covered.
2 had their hair
Out
covered.
of what dozen.
So it was considered like optional. Right? It was considered optional. So Salvation, so yeah. In Lita, the Hasidish always covered their hair. Yeah. I'll just read to you the Rambam here. Rambam Hilchos Ishus Per Chav Daled. Rambam says this is a good chazar with chidushim in it. Elohein advarim sheim asas achad mehem avra das Moshe. These are the things, says the Rambam, if you do any of these things, avra al das Moshe. Meaning, if you go against das Moshe and das Yehudis, just to be clear, it's not just that you lose your ksuva. You're over something. You're over. What are you over? It's written in the Torah, it's not written in the Torah. Is it D'Rabbanan, it's not a D'Rabbanan. You're over something called Das Moshe. You're over something called Das Yehudis. You're over al Das Moshe. Independent of Ksuva, it seems it implies that there's an Avera. What's the Avera? You're going against Minhagei B'nai Yisrael. That's the Avera. That's what it means. You're going against Das Moshe, Das Yisrael. Das, change the word to Minhagei Moshe, Minhagei Yisrael, Minhagei Yehudis. That's what it means. Harei Mekudeshesli Kedas Moshe v'Yisrael. What that means is that I have in mind all the normal minhagim, like all the regular things of from Moshe Rabbeinu through Klal Yisrael. That's what we have in mind. In my one sentence is included all the tznoyim and all the different halachas and all the different minhagim of Moshe v'Yisrael. That's what my expectation is here. That's what I'm committing myself to here. Kedas Moshe v'Yisrael. So it says the Rambam, Elohein dvarim shimasa lechen mehem avra al das Moshe yotza b'shuk v'sar roisha galui. If she goes outside and her hair is galui, which is different than what the Gemara says of being over the Yisur Deraisa, which you're Makayim just by having it tied up, but she's over das Moshe. We have a Deraisa, das Moshe, das Yehudis. Yotze b'shuk v'sarosh galoi. Oy shenoideres anishbas ve'enu mekayim. She's promising things all over the place and not keeping them. Oy sheshimsha mitasa v'hinida. Oy she'ena koitzel chala. She's saying she took chala and she didn't give off chala. Oy she'achila es balel dvarim asurim, or she feeds her husband treif. This is not good. Ve'en tzarich loimer shkotzim v'ramosim, which is more likely because means that she doesn't check the the vegetables correctly. Even if it's just not meiser also. And then, skipping a little bit, then the Rambam says, Ezui das Yehudis. What's das Yehudis? And he doesn't say avra here. Hu minhag at tznius shenoagu b'nois Yisrael. It's a minhag of tznius. And to ask that all-favorite question, what's the definition of tznius? Why isn't everybody screaming?
Grab your eye.
What does the word mean? Don't say tight. Machusa. Tznius, by definition, tznius, hatzneilech, is private. So a place which is normally, very important, a place which is normally a makam mechusa, if you are megale a makam mechusa, sefelten tznius. That's the way to understand the word. So the Rambam says, Ezu idas Yehudis hu minegat tznius. This is his word. Shenoagu b'nois Yisrael. Shenoagu b'nois Yisrael. Ve'eloin advarim shimasa mehem Achad mehem avra al das Yehudis. Yotzes l'shuk elamavui mefulash v'roisha parua ve'ein aleha redid kechol hanoshim. That's it. A redid is like some kind of a pin. Afal pi shesara mechusa b'matpachas. I'm not crazy. As the Rambam Shita, even if she has a tichel on, Sarah afal pi shesara mechusa b'matpachas. And then the Rambam says other things. Sheyoshe b'shuk, tava b'shuk, vered ukiyoytze b'keneged panel. She puts a rose. We don't see these things anymore. Puts a rose in her over her ear. So it's priestess. So that's not part of tznius. That's another. Or she puts a piece of hair keneged panel padachosa elechia keder shoisa hagoyos haprutzais. Oy shetava b'shulka maris reyasel libnei adam. She shows her arms to people. Each word here is so valuable. Oy shoisa misachekes im habachurim. Oy shois tevas tashmish mibala b'kol ram. That's how the Rambam learns the Gemara of a Kailanis. Right. Medaberes haliske tashmish. It talks aloud. Windows, neighbors. Okay, so what I want to just wind up here is that there's three things: das Daraisa, das Moshe, and das Yehudis. I believe das Moshe and das Yehudis are both minhagei Yisrael, and Daraisa is the din. Now, let me just say one last thing that everyone's familiar with, and I want to straighten out because I don't know how familiar we are. The Aruch HaShulchan, who, by the way, is ma'arich on the importance of women covering their hair. He's ma'arich on it, and not just in the Aruch HaShulchan, but in other places. It was yadua that he was very, very upset that women in his Navardik weren't covering their hair. But then he comes Shema by a woman whose hair is not covered, whether it's your wife, somebody else's wife, whoever it is. Now, is there an issur or not? So comes the Aruch HaShulchan, and he says he unpacks a chiddush that says that, look, being that most women don't cover their hair anymore, it's true today, no? Like if you get out of here, most women don't cover their hair anymore, so it's including B'nois Yisrael. So it's how can you say that it's das Yehudis because the B'nos Yisrael are not doing that anymore? And then he backs it up by saying that, like Tachlis, it's not Gorim Hirur, which this is a chiddush that he says that seems to be the whole problem here. That it's, at the end, the idea is not supposed to be Gorim Hirur. So he says it's not Gorim Hirur because everybody does it. So once everybody does it, it's not Gorim Hirur. The Mishnah Berurah, I'll tell you this, like Behedya argues with this. And he says, the Mishnah Berurah in Ayin Zayin, Hilchos Kriya Shema, he says he says that, look, you can have discussions about das Yehudis in terms of whether women should have to cover their face or their ankles or their toes or whatever. But what's the din is asur midina. So and he says kisei roish midin, covering your arms midin. Mishnah Berurah says covering your shok, your thighs midin. We have a mafurish machlokes here between the Mishnah Berurah and the Aruch HaShulchan, whether the idea of covering your hair and other places, is that a din or is that a minhag? So the Mishnah Berurah says clearly that you can only say something is a minhag after you're makayim the din. So let's say, as the poskim say, let's say the poskim say, let's say you go la'echad iye hayam, you go to some remote island, and over there women don't cover what normal people cover up. So it's still usher to look at them or to say Kriya Shema Kenegdom because be'etzem it's pritzos, even though everyone there does it. I don't know why I have to say some EA Hayam, like let's say you're going on a subway in New York, it's the same, like EA Hayam. But there was a morality of the world at that time. So I leave it with this. So you have a clear, we should continue this because the discussion gets only more interesting, but what you do have is a clear machlekes, the Mishnah Berurah and the Aruch HaShulchan, whether the chiyuv covering your hair is das Yehudis or whether it's a din.
I just don't understand how it could be Das Yehudis if the Torah brings down the Maisa Sota.
Because all it says there is that they pulled their hair apart. Doesn't say that it was mechusa. Okay, I know I'm leaving the middle, but there's a siyum and I want to end on time.